have done. That is the identity parade from GOG and MAGOG.
A showing out.
A showing out.
Okay, a question then. Then how is it? Because we're very inconsistent as a people, aren't we? Aren't we? Well, we're very inconsistent brothers and sisters because we're learning how to move on from where we are. So if we're very inconsistent and then we do like a couple of good things and a bad thing, and then a couple of bad things, and then we'll probably struggle to do a good thing.
As we
how
do.
Yeah, that's right. That's how we are. Yeah. You know, how do we tell then?
Well, we're told in the scriptures that we should strive to outdo our bad works with good works. You know, we are instructed, you know, and if we're not reading the scripture, we will continue our life just bouncing from one to the other, bouncing between good works and bad works. Or in truth, if we're not reading the scripture, we'll end up doing more bad works than good works. Our bad deeds will really outweigh our good deeds. So, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intent is one of the maxims that I often say and hear people saying. We may intend good, but in fact we are actually doing bad. We are actually outdoing good with bad, and we need to be working. We need to be encouraged. We need to be in an environment that continually encouraging us to outweigh our bad deeds with good deeds, for us to really know who we are. Because some of us feel that we are good people, but because we have not got that yardstick to measure ourselves by, we're absolutely fooling ourselves. You know, barbarous ignorance. GOG and MAGOG represents a barbaric tribe, or barbaric tribes of people, or a barbaric mindset. We can be a barbaric people and think we're doing good because we haven't got that yardstick to measure it against. I've got a question here. How do you get an apple to envy an orange?
I know, by making it think it's an orange.
Yeah. You convince the apple that it is an underdeveloped orange, you know? So in that confusion, in that not knowing who we are because we are judging ourselves physically instead of by action, we do not know who we are. And many of us are confused into knowing who we are. You know, how do you get the female, taking it further, how do you get the female to envy the male? You convince the female that the only way she can achieve equality is to work to outdo the male in what he does as a male. Last week we talked about the head of the male being bruised, but she's going to outdo him in doing the bruised mindset that he does in this world.
But I think that's what I was just going to ask, because the female doesn't really have, we don't have many examples of females within our scope, within our range, within our environment. Then how do you convince her that she's a female? Because the reason, one of the reasons why sisters are doing what they're doing, one of the reasons why we're doing that is because we've been left to our own devices. Yeah. And if we've been left to our own devices now, then we don't really have many people who are going to come into our community and say, you know, well, that's not necessarily how the female is. So if we don't know how the female is by nature and how we're supposed to be, and we're just being like males by circumstance, then how do you get the female to understand and recognise who she is then? Okay,
there has to really be a separation between male and female. The male and female that we have. Male and female. Yeah. Let me read something from that Surah 1894. You know, this is where it's talking about GOG and MAGOG. It says, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, say, O Zulkarnain. Yeah, and Zulkarnain has been described as Darius the First. Yeah, for those historians out there.
Sure.
O Zulkarnain, surely GOG and MAGOG make mischief in the land. Shall we then pay you a tribute on condition that you raise a barrier between us and them? Yeah, so there, straight away, there's a barrier that needs to be raised between those who know and those who don't know. They're calling for it. They're calling for it from this person called Zulkarnain or Darius. It says, GOG and MAGOG had facilitated, this is my notes now, GOG and MAGOG has facilitated a Western society where women have been mentally, spiritually and physically turned inward against themselves. Men have tricked women into believing that they are free to do as they wish, free to dress as they wish, free to come and go, and free to disassociate themselves from the knowledge of God and their cultural duty and responsibility to God and the family. This is a society where it seems to be more important for a woman to demand equality, but equality with the follower of Shaitan, not God. a freedom to display body parts under the guise of fashion, rather than to accept our own and be ourselves. Yeah. So is it any wonder the society's headed for hell? The female and the male need to have that barrier. You know, in the Nation of Islam, we have FOI class, we have MGT class. We have the brothers sitting on one side, the sisters sitting on one side. We have a barrier between the two. And once we have that barrier between the two, physically, mentally, spiritually, in that setting, we can start to learn about ourselves. We can start to learn about who we are. Brotherhood can start to be built. Sisterhood can start to be built now. So that barrier, that Dul Kanan, that Darius figure, that prophet figure, that Minister Farrakhan figure needs to be called to come in, because he has the standard of both male and female. But we can't learn the standard of male and female once we are spiraling down together, bouncing off one another. Males being, what they call it, metrosexual.
Ooh.
Females striving to be like the male, or girls striving to be like the male. You notice I said girl on girl. I didn't say woman on woman.
That's right.
Girl on girl, because
right.
the females cannot develop into womanhood. Physically they can, but not mentally.
Yeah.
So it becomes girl on girl. And you notice the males want a girl. They can't handle a woman.
Right.
They want a girl.
Right.
So it's male assisted, yeah. Girl on girl.
Yeah.
So this is the situation that we are in.
Yeah, but isn't that part of the problem? Because sometimes I know that as women, when we're left to get on with what we need to get on with, that we actually do get along most of the time. But a lot of the time we argue over men, or we argue over brothers, not even men. We argue over brothers because they're getting involved in our business or having a relationship with one of us and having a relationship with the other, and we end up arguing and fighting. And that's something that happens often. Yeah. So then how do we move that out of the way as well? Because you're talking about a barrier, but we've got to see the need for a barrier or understand why there would be a barrier.
Well, I think that comes back to what we were saying in the beginning. If I can find my notes, they're all over the place here. You know, being sensitive to somebody's needs and being sensitive to somebody's feelings.
Okay, great.
Yeah. When we're sensitive to the needs of the female, when the Darius figure is sensitive to the needs of the female, so he builds the barrier between the two, but he doesn't leave them. He doesn't leave the female on the female side and the males on the male side, because he's sensitive to the needs and he's sensitive to their feelings. He has both sides of the equation. So the Darius figure, the man of God, can teach the female. He doesn't leave her in a pool by herself so that she can start arguing about the brothers and being envious about what's going on in the brotherhood side. And, you know, I want to go, you know, the Million Man March, the sisters say, well, I want to go. You notice that? The sisters, I want to go to the Million Man. What are they talking about over there?
Yeah, or I'm not getting involved because women aren't allowed to come in.
Call a male-only meeting and see the response from the women, from the sisters. It's not the same if you call a female-only meeting. The brothers may hang outside waiting for the sisters to come out. But you call a male-only meeting,
them off, you know,
and women want to get inside. What's going on in there? Yeah. So
we've become We've become so mistrustful, and you know why? Because we're insecure. When Elijah was going through a period of insecurity, he would listen outside the door all the time. Do you remember? He'd be listening. What's going on in there? What is going on? Mother, who was that on the phone? Mother, who was that on your mobile phone? Mother, where are you going? Mother, Father, where are you going? Because they're feeling insecure, and we're feeling insecure because our man hasn't done our job of securing us, and because he's been disconnected from God, which means we've been separated to a degree as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Insecurity,
which leads to envy and mistrust.
And mistrust, but it can be envy, but definitely mistrust, and then doubt and suspicion.
Well, I've got a little definition for envy down here, so I'm going to read it out because I think it's envy. You can tell me what you think after this.
Thanks.
Envy, brothers and sisters, from the dictionary. A feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Now, women think that men have it all in this society. Men can do what they want in this society, and they want some of it. That's envy.